Welcome to the SowGrow Marketing Council podcast. The SowGrow Marketing Council is a membership organization comprised of growing marketers who want to stay ahead of developments in multiple areas of marketing. This podcast features recordings of SowGrow Marketing Council meetings. Tune in to hear expert marketers share tips and discuss the latest strategies and tools in marketing. To join the next meeting and be part of the discussion yourself, visit SowGrowPR.com. That's SowGrowPR.com and click on the Marketing Council tab. Let's get growing. Thank you for joining our SowGrow Marketing Council meeting today. We are a group of marketers that get together and we like to share ideas and tips. Marketing is such a fast-changing industry that we get together to collaborate and be able to keep each other up to speed on all of the different things that are happening in different areas of marketing. We all tend to specialize in a specific area of marketing, and it's hard to know what's going on in different adjacent areas of marketing. And so by getting together, we're able to share what's new and what's happening in our particular area of marketing, and that makes us better marketers across the board. And we have people calling from all over the world, all over the country today, and we're going to hear from specific marketers today that submitted tips. So if you would like to participate in one of our meetings in the future, you can also submit a tip by going to SowGrowPR.com/submit. That's SowGrowPR.com/submit, and you can join one of our meetings as well. So today, Susan Gold is going to kick us off. And presenters, as you guys present your tips today, I would like you guys to say your name and your company and your area of expertise, and that way we know where you're calling in from. And as we mentioned pre-call, if you guys have thoughts and questions, we would love to have you guys participate in this. This is a participatory discussion. It is not a webinar, so we do not want you to just sit and turn your cameras off and listen in. We want you guys to engage, participate, ask questions. A lot of times the best tips come out of the discussions that we have afterwards as well. So each presenter will have about 4 minutes to present your tip, and then we'll have a couple minutes afterwards for discussion. And be sure to sign up for our next meeting. We're going to meet January 20th. We meet the third Tuesday of every month. We log on at 9:50, settle in, just kind of get to know each other a little bit, and then we usually start filming a couple minutes after 10. And if you want to sign up for the next ones, you can go to SowGrowPR.com/events and sign up, and you can join us for our next meeting. So, all right, Susan, if you will kick us off, we'll get started.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Susan Gold, I'm a marketing strategy coach, and I work with professional services, B2B business owners who sometimes are frozen and frustrated because their marketing is not working and they don't know why. So today I'm going to talk about who your best clients are and who you really want more of. I'm sure you've asked that question of yourself. And my tip is about why looking backwards can help you look forward. So, sometimes when we answer that question, who are your best clients? Who do I want more of? We might say, well, we're agnostic. We can help anybody and everybody. We can work with all kinds of businesses. And while that may be true, we have to really think about not everyone's equally valuable. We've all had great clients. We've had some awful clients and a mess of in between, right? So how do we determine who we want more of? And then we got to go find them. That's the core of marketing. The answer is really, it starts with your client history. The history of all the clients that you've worked with, the great ones, the not so great ones, and the ones in between. That's all a strategic gold mine. It's not about a gut feel that you answer that question quickly with, well, it's this kind of client, right? But it needs to be fed by intelligence, your own data. So when we collect our client history data, then we can spot patterns. So let's start with that client history data first. Who are they? The industries, the subsectors, age groups, decision makers. Sometimes those are different than the day-to-day contacts that we work with. What are their titles? What's the location? How did they find you? Networking, speeches, talks, conferences, campaigns, referrals. Why did they hire you? Are you asking that in that moment that they say, yes, I'd love to work with you? Do you ask why they hired you? And then the impact that you have. Sometimes we wait till we do those success stories and case studies, but did you save them money, increase efficiency, enter a new market? Then we look for those patterns. who are high performing. Revenue producers, they're profitable, they're a great client or not. What does the profile of a high performing client look like? Where did they originate from? Who are the poor performers? Where did they come from? What do they look like? Then ask, who do we want to work with that's not on those history lists? That's the aspirational type of client. And the final filter, when you think about who you want more of in this environment, given the economy and what's happening in the business world, who has a clear need for your solution? They just don't know you yet, right? Who has the ability to pay and the willingness to pay? These are the industries and the types of clients you want to ask for. Your client history isn't just a record of where you've been, it's a roadmap of where you go next. And understanding why they hire you in their own words is marketing gold. And I'm going to share an article on this so you can get more detail and a PDF so that you can go through this process yourself. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Susan. And be sure, Susan has a B2B referral networking group, so be sure to include a link to that, Susan, when you get a second. So, what would you say to people who are hesitant to narrow their focus and build their marketing around more of a niche area rather than just a general? There's that fear of, well, if I specify in this area, I'm going to cut out all these other people that may want to work with me. How do you address that
Yeah,
fear?
the fear of missing out and leaving clients, potential clients, or money on the table is a big driver for that challenge. And what I do is you don't have to, let's say you work in 6 different industries, but they're not all created equal. What you can do is promote, ask for, network around, and really push like in your marketing materials. Those pain points that those specific types of clients have. It doesn't mean you're not going to get other clients. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get other types of referrals. But why not ask for the very best? Because if we don't ask, we don't necessarily get that. And we haven't educated our strategic partners that that's what we're really looking for.
Right, absolutely. Thoughts and questions for Susan? You guys can just raise your hand. Any thoughts or questions? I know this is something that, especially, I feel like this last year, just trying to get new business in. Cordelia.
So this was something that we do every year. So I think I'm the only person here that's not a marketing consultant, but I've done a lot of different kinds of marketing and I do the marketing for our firm. But when we sat down, our CEO had a lot of opinions about who he thought his ideal client was. And I'm like, well, you've been in the business for 20 years. Like, let's let's look at them, and he had to actually sit down and write down a list of every client and how and from his memory, like about how much they paid and what kind of work it was. And then each year we revisit it because it changes, our focus changes, and who naturally and it's almost never a match for the gut instinct. So I think it's an
Interesting.
incredibly valuable exercise and it's really important to do it. And it's not necessarily the people that love to be out there doing stuff don't love to sit down and analyze what they did. So it can be a little bit painful.
It can be. That's the word
Mhm.
that a lot of clients use when they go through this exercise. But what makes it a little bit easier is if you build all those data fields in your CRM and you capture them when you onboard a new client, as you do quarterly reviews or check-ins, and start to look at those rankings on profitability and fit factors, so that at the 6 month mark or the 12-month mark, you can push a button, pull out a report, and you'll have it all done for you. And then it's constantly being updated because it's only a snapshot in time, to your point.
I wonder what that disconnect is between the gut feeling and the reality. I wonder if that's just a misperception. Is it that you want to work with someone and they just don't, whatever doesn't work out? I mean, I'm curious if you have any sense of Cordelia or Susan. I don't know if there's any sense of like, why would our gut tell us something that's different than the data? That's just interesting.
I see that all the time. Every time it's a surprise. I think it's how they remember. Sometimes it's relating to the people as humans as opposed to it being a great client. Or it's the guilt of, oh, the money's good. Yeah, it's even profitable. but they're just awful to work with. And I feel guilty. I just can't drop them as a client. And I need to replace them in order to do that. So I think there are different triggers for it. It just depends on what what the surface level connection is, whether it's the people or the money.
That's interesting. So interesting. Great. Well, thank you for your tip, Susan. That's really helpful
Thank
things
you.
to think about as we move into 2026. All right, Cordelia, would you like to introduce yourself and share your tip today?
Sure. So I'm Cordelia Blake. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for High Score Strategies. We provide business valuation, investment advisory services, not like personal investing, but getting investors for your business kind of investing, growth strategy for companies that are thinking about buying or selling and bringing in partners, things like that. So that's what we do. And I've been in the role I'm in for about 2.5 years. So I've learned a lot about marketing this type of business, which I've done a lot of marketing in my past, but this has all been kind of new to me. But one of the things that I really learned in my last company, to the point where I thought about actually doing this as a consulting business on its own before I came into this role, is that I really believe that CEOs, partners, the chief leadership team of companies needs to be doing their own videos, especially in professional services. They need to be actually doing their own videos and not professionally produced, but actually like casual conversational videos. And they hate it. They hate it. So I put together a tip sheet on that. I didn't do it as a slide form. So let me see if it shares okay. Um, can you guys see that? I also put it in the chat, but I don't know if this is how this is going to work on YouTube. So,
Yeah, we can see it. And just
okay.
be sure to walk through it for the people that are on the podcast that may not
Yeah,
be able to see it, but
absolutely.
yeah.
So the first step is really to get the executive to buy into the whole idea that they should be on video because they really do not want to be on video. Many of them do not. And so I put together some data here, but basically, 85% of viewers prioritize authenticity over polished production. Thought leadership videos, particularly live Q&A sessions, generate 6 times more interactions than pre-recorded content, helping CEOs establish themselves as industry authorities. And credibility, it really comes from you being able to talk about a subject matter. And many people, especially again in professional services, the reason they became a partner, an owner, or whatever their title is because they're used to doing this kind of thing, but in person. And they built up a wide network of word of mouth referrals and relationships. And so getting in front of a camera and doing it is really different than like working a room, for example, or working whatever it is you did to get to where you're at. So the big thing is to get the buy-in. It's going to take a lot longer than they like for them to get comfortable. And they're going to be bad at it, which they don't like, but it's part of the process. Everybody who's ever done video, I don't care who you are, their first videos were terrible. Um, the next thing is you want to manage expectations. They're not going to feel comfortable. So just be like, you're going to feel uncomfortable. It's not going to feel comfortable. That doesn't mean we did it wrong. It's just something new. It's all part of the learning process. So there's a lot of like kind of hand holding and coaching through this. They're going to hate the way they look on camera to a certain extent. And I actually underestimated this. If there's something that they can fix, like if they have something that they particularly hate about themselves and they can fix it, then have them do that. Like sometimes there's people are like, well, I hate my, whatever teeth, or I hate my eye wrinkles, or whatever their issue is. Then you can get a filter, you can do makeup, or you can get Invisaligns, or whatever the thing is to help them feel more comfortable. Um, but then after that, it's just a question of like, you meet people all the time and you function. So you just do it the same way, but it can be really hard for people. So try to address it, but also try to, again, manage the expectation. And I'm a big fan of kind of having an invisible co-host, as I just made that up. I don't know if it's a real term or not, but basically the way that we worked for about 3 years is we would get on video together. And frequently to the point where our CEO, who by the way, he does happen to also be my husband, full disclosure, but this works with other, I've done this with other executives as well. And they actually put my picture, like, so they're like in their world, they're looking at the screen and talking to me. They're not looking at a picture of themselves. And that can really help them get more natural on camera because they're just talking to me and they're not recording a video. And there's a couple of platforms that you can do this on very easily. Now, obviously, the video producers in the group are going to have like way more better setups for this. But if you're kind of on a webcam Zoom type situation, if you use Descript or StreamYard, what it will do is it actually records each person as a separate video feed. And so you get a video, like for example, for this particular thing, there would be a separate video just of Stephanie. And so if somebody wanted to edit just what she said into like a little casual video, it would look like she was just by herself talking, and you would never see or hear anybody else in the video, in the final product. It makes it much easier to do that invisible co-host thing because and then if they say something that is unclear or you want them to repeat, you can just say, hey, please repeat that, or try saying it like this, or what did you mean by that? Or can you clarify this, or give me a case study, all the things that we want to have in the video. They're just having a conversation with you about it. And then the final edit is only them talking, and it makes them look like they're just really good at doing video. Um, and StreamYard does this if you record it. Like you don't need to be streaming for that part to work. So it's a little pricey for smaller companies. I like to script as well. It does it too. I'm sure there's other products that do as well. And the big thing is to learn what the customer wants, because this is another one similar to what Susan was saying that I find is a disconnect. There's a lot of standard marketing, I guess, training, teaching out there about lead magnets and what kinds of things people should put out there in their marketing. And CEOs see this stuff and they think they should be generating that type of content. But depending on the service, when you're trying to hit like a higher price point consulting gig or some other kind of big ticket item, you need to know who your customer is. And this is, what are they interested in? And in my experience, CEOs and C-suite executives are not interested in fluff pieces, basic content. Here's my 6-step checklist for how to blah, blah, blah. They don't care about any of that stuff. They want to deep dive into something really technical, or they want something that is worth their time. If they're billing at $400 or $600 an hour, it's got to be worth $600 for them to sit there for an hour. And so doing something really technical that shows the expertise of the CEO or the service provider, doing something really in depth may not have this wide appeal. You can't turn into a bunch of shorts and get a bunch of, views on it, but you're going to really attract the kind of people that you want to attract, which is really important. And this is where that client list can come in really handy too. Learn the location of the customer, where they are online. In my experience, for most professional services, it's YouTube and LinkedIn. So, it's great to do TikTok and Instagram and all these other things, but sometimes you got to pick your battles. So, just do your research on that for whatever business you're in. Know what stats are good for you. Not every video is going to go viral and have 20,000 views. Sometimes 200 or 250 views that are like people that might actually hire you that are super interested in what you're talking about is more valuable. So know what's a good stat for you and track it. And we have had fantastic results with our video over 3 years of the Invisible Co-host. People come up to Mike all the time, our CEO, and they say, oh my God, you're so good on camera. I could never do that. You're such a natural, and you're so relaxed and you're so confident. And what they don't know is the secret battle behind that was like us taking so long and me prompting him and asking him more questions and editing all that stuff out so that he did look really natural. And now he actually does a weekly video all by himself. Where he just gets on there and he does do his own video, and it has gotten great response. But it took 3 years of us doing the invisible co-host before he could do that. So it can be really effective. And I'm a big fan of it. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And then I just put a little quote here, which I looked this up because I've heard it, but I didn't know where it came from. And it turns out it came from the 1500s. But it's basically that you want to make it's a little fancy, but it's basically that you want to make things look effortless. It doesn't mean that they are effortless. And that sometimes is a challenge to talk to a high performer. They're used to being really comfortable and good at what they do. And so it's like, it's not going to feel comfortable, but we're going to make it look effortless. We're going to make you look as good as we can. But it also has to be your voice, your expertise, and your authenticity.
That's
So
great.
that is
Thank you,
what I
Cordelia. I'm curious how this is going to change in terms of with AI and how you can just set yourself up and you don't actually have to be the one on camera and you can give it the script. I just wonder how tempting that's going to be for these people who are not comfortable being on camera. I'm curious if there's going to be backlash for that.
I
So,
mean, there's always been that temptation of you could hire an actor, you could write a script. There's so many ways for those people to not be on camera. So I think that's why step one of the buy-in is so important. Because AI is not going to replace somebody's authentic voice.
right.
And it's just if you get up there and you talk about you're answering Q&A, you're in there engaging with people, you're doing the real work of your job on camera, it comes across. And I think it's important.
Absolutely. Crystal, you had a question or thought?
Yes. Pardon me. The question I had is for some of my clients, when we're creating content prior to an event, I agree completely with the authenticity, but some clients, especially for my larger corporate clients, they have these guidelines where they won't do such an authentic video where, I could just have my phone and just record it. They'll have these guidelines where they require it. Um, is the authenticity when you say no big production, you need it to be authentic? Is it more of a visual feel instead of how the actual content is made? Because it could be made documentary style. The CEO doesn't need to be dressed up in a more formal outfit. The background could be really laid back. It could be made to look very authentic and still have a production team because that client may require a certain level of production to be utilized.
So I think that's a really good point. Obviously, it's going to be different in different environments. I actually think bigger companies lose a lot here because they lose this authentic voice as the company gets bigger. But I would say that the problem with a produced video is that no matter how good your production team is, it's a long time. I mean, you've done it to film a thing and edit it and have all that thing and make it look natural. You cannot be doing that weekly unless you have like a really high budget, right? I mean, it's a lot to do a natural weekly video every
Right.
week. And so it comes into strategy and goals for the company, right? But
Mhm.
I think that it's really important that if your strategy is to, especially if you're, this is why I kind of harp on the service provider angle. A big company like say Coca-Cola, this is not going to apply. But someone like a law firm or an accounting firm, and a lot of these firms have partners that have no interest in being on camera,
Mhm.
but it's so important for their growth strategy.
Yes, yes, I agree. And then you also talked about really focusing on knowing who the customer is. And that's really good from the event perspective. Even the smaller companies who show up to these shows, I
Hmm.
really talk about knowing who that target audience is. And when we're creating content to promote
Yep.
the event as well, it's really hard to get the C-suite in front of the video. So uh, preach it to the choir. I hear you.
Yeah. And it's a long, like I believe that it takes a long time and it's hard with an event because you've only got a weekend or a day and you've got to it's really important. And I think they're having a professional video team is actually super important because it's really hard to do a good job of capturing good video at an event without having professionals do it. Like it's just almost impossible. You can do something like this and make it look good enough, but I think to have it at like a live speech, it's just terrible if you do it yourself.
It's a
Graham, did you have,
mix when
oh,
it comes
sorry.
it's a mix when it comes to promoting. You promote it on social. We try to do something a little bit more authentic, but yes, definitely on site, it's definitely full production.
Yeah.
Sarah, I saw
Graham,
your
I know
hand.
you're a video guy. Do you have a, I'm sorry, Stephanie. I just wanted to give Graham a chance because he's in video.
Yeah, and I saw Sarah's hand, and then Graham, I've got you too.
Okay.
I was just going to say, I mean, from social, that is so preaching the choir because having that authentic voice, and it's just more important, I think, as everything is more saturated with
Mhm.
things that you can create. That's that's a language that people immediately are going to gravitate toward. I mean, like the natural, in the moment, even in terms of being like a newsworthy share, it feels more like, oh, they're sharing this quickly as opposed to something that was produced and took a lot of time and all that type of stuff. Why podcasts are so popular, like it feels more intimate, feels like, oh, they're giving me this inside track. And yes, it is so hard to get CEOs to do it. We
Yep.
have like had that same battle, but if you can get them to do it, and Kristen actually has been doing some on TikTok that are just wonderful. But these like quick in the moment industry shares, they're gold. They're so wonderful for all different types of social channels. So
Thank you, Sarah. All right, we'll go to Graham, and then Kristen will go to you to present your tip.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Cordelia, my first time hearing you, meeting you, seeing what you do as a video professional myself, you are my spirit animal. Like I've got your PDF right here, and this is literally everything that I talk about with clients when I do workshops and coaching thing. These are literally everything I talk about. This is awesome. And especially number 7, no good stats for you. It's so important for people to know 200 views of the right people is so much more impactful than 20,000 random views. Like we've got to get the vanity metrics out of our head. So I thought that was super impactful. And then I just wanted to say, you put a name to what I do. I do a lot of virtual interviews for my clients, and you call it the invisible co-host. I love that phrase. So, and another the platform that I use is Riverside,
Yeah, Riverside
riverside.fm.
is really good. It's just a little bit more technical. So since you're a professional, I'm
Hmm.
sure you can use it. But for like an average user, I think it's just got a steeper learning curve.
Hmm. I just thought the price point is nice and the quality is good, and that's just
Yeah,
what I've always used.
absolutely.
But if you don't think I'm not going to steal all of this for my next workshop, you're crazy. This was awesome. Right,
Oh, thank
spot
you.
on everything.
Very cool. Very cool. Love it. Well, thank you for bringing that tip. I think that's a very relevant topic to everybody in this group. So thank you, Cordelia. All right, Kristen, would you please introduce yourself and then share your tip? And then Ryan will jump to you.
Hello, I'm Kristen Sellier, a brand strategist with Ideate, and today I'm going to talk about trade shows because events are becoming very important in the sea of AI content. And so I was working with the client this last week, and there's some things that I always share with customers that I thought would be valuable for everybody here. One of my go-to companies to order from is Displays to Co. They're actually originally out of Georgia, and they're really good at customer service and delivering items correctly the first time, and their prices are really reasonable. So it's a great resource that I like to use. Here's the 4 tips that I use when I'm building trade show booth designs. It's very tempting for your customers to want to put everything in the kitchen sink on the trade show banners, but it's a huge mistake because nobody sees anything if there's too many words. So I compare like a 10 by 10 foot banner to a billboard, and so 7 words or less. Less is more always on the banner. The other piece is that really no words or major information should be below 3 to 4 feet. So the bottom 3 to 4 feet are hidden by people walking and tables and accoutrements in the trade show booth itself. So no important content is like basically in that lower portion. The third tip is that a lot of people are tempted to put a big table in the front. And what that table does is it says, do not cross, do not enter, we are not welcoming, we are not approachable. It basically becomes a barrier between the people walking the trade show booth and the people in the booth. And that's the exact opposite of what I encourage our customers to do, which is to create a very comfortable, approachable booth where people want to walk into the booth and interact with the team that is in the booth and interact in the activities they have at the booth and conversations. So it's easy to create a booth that has a big table. Don't do it. Don't put a table in the front. Create a very opening and welcoming atmosphere. And number 4 is create a reason to be there. People aren't just going to come to the booth unless there's a reason to be there. So there needs to be preparation and plans around why people are coming to your booth that day. What are they going to get out of it? Not you, but what your customers, potential clients are going to get out of it from coming to that booth. And, a big giveaway like a tablet or anything big is a great way to get people in the booth. But if you're interested in getting real leads and prospects, it doesn't matter about the quantities, it matters about the quality, just like Cordelia was talking about. I'd rather have our customers walk away with 5 to 10 really good prospects worth versus 50 business cards of people who wanted to get the tablet that you were giving away. So the reason to be there needs to be around what your value is to your customers and having those meaningful conversations. And then I just wanted to show a few booths. When customers are investing in a trade show, they might spend $10,000 to $100,000 in the trade show itself. Booths really aren't that expensive. It's the cost of getting there and all the people and all of these things. But these are 4 different booths that I have that I would recommend to use because they're easy to put up. They can be put up by one person. They're reasonable in price and they offer a variety of options based on the trade show. So the first booth on the left is tension fabric. Put it together, tension fabric over top. It's under $1,000. It can be reused over and over and it can be carried on a plane. Option number 2 has a podium. It also, if there's going to be video, which I love having video at a booth, you don't have sound on it because there's a exhibit going on usually. And this one on the right has monitors. It also has shelves for brochures or other things, and then a podium. And I don't like where the podium is seated for what I said before. I would move the podium to a right side or back in an area or have a circular high top table. Lights are very important. So option 3 on the left, lighting in trade shows can be very dark. So lighting is important. I like this booth because it has the lighting feature on the back. And again, a podium that you can move and you can hide things in to keep the booth clean. And then the last booth on the far right is probably the most difficult to put up, but it has a nice a nice look to it. It feels lean, it feels fresh, clean. And again, I would move the podium, but it gives lighting. It also has a place for the monitor and then the podium that can be moved. And these all can be shipped and sent. So that is my tip for today. And preparation for a trade show booth is extremely important. It's not just the trade show day. We recommend there's emails, there's LinkedIn posts, within 6 to 8 weeks ahead of time, during the event and after the event. And after event, there's 2 different types of channels, one to the warm leads and then one to attendees of the show. So the trade show in itself, that those 1 to 3 days is just a portion of this really 8-week plan to get the most out of a trade show. So I hope that was very helpful for everyone. If you have your customers going to trade show booths, I will get this to Stephanie to post.
That's great. And Kristen, I know you talk a lot about branding is not just your logo, it's not just your website, it's not just your colors, but it's the entire experience that someone has with your company down to where the table is. And that can be branding. And I just think that that's so good to think about. So thank you for bringing that up. All right, Ryan, you had a thought or question?
Yeah, when it comes to those 7 words that you put on the banner behind above, the 3-foot margin or whatever. I mean, I know you're often working with branding clients and you've coalesced everything down to probably a motto or a slogan. But what would you, is it always going to be like that? Or is it sometimes when maybe they're promoting a certain product, would they talk about the pain point? Like what's the most eye-catching thing that's going to draw somebody in that isn't already aware of that brand?
It depends on the trade show itself. It depends on the attendees of the trade show. So a lot of it can change. What I think is the most important is your key differentiator. That should not change no matter what show you're at, no matter who you're serving, it's always going to be the same. So if you stick to your brand position, which should be short, you're always going to be safe. And that way it's unique and it's short and it's part of the DNA of the brand.
Because you often want to reuse these, right, Kristen? You're not going to do a new
Mhm.
one every time you go to an event, hopefully. Hopefully it's something that's
Right.
consistent enough that you can reuse it more than once. So
Right.
Susan, you had a thought or question?
Just wanted to share, even though that was probably only 4 minutes of what Kristen talked about, but her deep experience in this is what comes through in pointing out the traffic patterns, the how things are seen from the outside, as opposed to you being inside the company, inside your booth, thinking about how things work. And I'm sure you could probably do 2-hour presentation, Kristen, on all the things that you've had to deal with in in creating trade booth experiences, not just materials. So I just wanted to thank you for, I wish I had known you years ago in my corporate life when I really needed a partner like you. You're fantastic.
And
Thanks,
Kristen is a
Susan.
great speaker, so have her come to whatever events you guys know of that need speakers on these topics because she's great at it. All right, Billy, we'll do a question from you and then Ryan will jump to you for your tip. Oh, Billy, you're on mute. All right, is it?
There we go. Can you
There
hear
you
me
go.
now?
We gotcha.
All right. Sorry, I didn't see the mute button on there. Kristen, I totally agree with you on the before, during, and after. It's always been that's exactly how I've explained it. But the other thing is to remember that in most industrial or uh, category type trade shows, only in many cases 15 or 20% of the industry is represented there. But and another factor is you're there in most cases along, or your client is there along with your competition. So everybody is there with their most recent updates, new product releases, new conversations, new things to talk about. But with only 15 or 20% of the key contacts attending the physical event, you have all that new content. And so you can take the show to the content from the show and maybe some takeaways from this industry show and create content around that for contacts who didn't attend the event. So there's another audience, and Kristen, I'm preaching to the choir here, but and then of course a lot of the trade press is there. Usually there's a couple of core publications that are affiliated with the events, and there's an opportunity to kind of meet and greet and share any new product news or any information that you have there. That was all. Just in total agreement.
Yeah, great point.
Awesome. All right, Ryan, can you introduce yourself and share your tip?
Yeah, I'm Ryan Williams of WebSuasion. I do primarily SEO and AEO, answer engine optimization for AI search. And today, though, I want to talk about something that we all probably deal with, should be dealing with at least, and that's Google GA4, Google Analytics GA4 metrics setup. So a lot of people a lot of marketing agencies use GA4 specifically for pay-per-click campaigns, and that's kind of like the limit of it. But there are a lot of other things that we can use that to verify, like our social media strategies, our organic SEO content, and trying to figure out where to best spend our budget. But a lot of times that's installed, and I'll go in and I'll look at the settings, and they're using the default Google settings, which you would think would be the best, generally. But most of the clients I work with, at least, are B2B, or they're clients that are consultants or something that to where they have like a longer distance between the first contact and the actual close on the sale. So there are some defaults that are in the data that you want to go in and change. So for instance, data retention, Google only saves 2 months by default. So that means if we're doing a campaign and we've got a company that may take 6 weeks, 6 months to close a deal, we're missing some of that data. We're dropping it on the floor after 2 months. So I extend that to 14 months for the year over year and seasonal analysis. So that's really, really important for like, especially a seasonal business. The other one is session timeout. So a lot of times you might go when you're evaluating a couple of companies, you might pull up a couple of tabs and you have two or three companies up in your tabs that you're comparing. Then you go off and you have a meeting and you come back, and it could be even the next day or later in the same day that you're looking at and kind of going through the content a little more. If we don't change our settings from the default, it will time out while those tabs are open, and it'll treat those as multiple sessions. So we won't be able to track that user, not specific user, but track that as a data point for longer than that. So we want to up those to 4 to 8 hours. I usually try to do 8 hours on that. The next thing we want to do is make sure that we're not tracking ourselves as part of the successful data. So that would be all of our marketing team, all of our employees. We want to make sure we're basically blacklisting our own IEPs that we use. And especially this is important when you have a lot of remote workers. So you can get a lot of data that looks like you're doing really good in Sandy Springs and you're doing really good in certain areas when it might just be that you have an employee there that's actually going through and using the site. And then for specifically for people who do a lot of product oriented stuff, if you have a PayPal or Stripe cart, you want to make sure you exclude those data from as referrals from the Google Analytics data, because if you don't, all of a sudden all your referrals are going to look like they come from PayPal or Stripe when that's not where it's coming from. That's just where the payments are coming from. The next thing that's really, really important, though, that I often see misused or misunderstood is proper UTM usage. So UTM is all the gobbledygook you see after a URL that has, the UTM source, the UTM medium, and then preferably your UTM campaign so that you can track back to specifically what worked. And a lot of times I'll see agencies use the refer as the same as the UTM source, and it's not the same thing. We can't really track it the same way. So we want to make sure that we have like a really good system for tracking our campaigns, and that we're putting UTMs for the source, the medium, which would be like Facebook or Yelp or Google Business Manager, or I mean Google Business Profile, or any of that kind of stuff in our links, so that when it links back, we can track that data accurately. And if we're doing campaigns, like we're doing a 6-week campaign, make sure that we're tagging it with that campaign. And that goes for like LinkedIn post, any of your social media stuff. That goes for your profiles. That goes for, like even if you do like a link tree, which everybody probably should do a link tree from their social media accounts that talks about the most recent things that you're hitting on that you want to funnel people down into. Those should all have UTM sources on it too, so we know where that's coming from. And that's going to make the data much more rich and interesting to use. You're going to end up with less things in the direct, which a lot of people think that's people typing in their website, when really it's just a junk drawer for Google Analytics. So if we can get better data from that, we can learn more about, like Cordelia was saying, learn more about what the customer wants from that data. And then, like Kristen and Graham were saying, we can really get down to getting away from vanity metrics and get down to exactly what a real lead that's going to transition into a close is going to be. So that's my tip for today.
And Ryan just demonstrated the beauty of this group, because how many of you want to do all that research yourself? That is just like tons of information that he just is knee deep in all the time. So that's so important for us to know. Thank you for sharing that, Ryan. April, you had a thought or a question?
I have a question for Ryan. So, my understanding is that like link trees are not necessarily great for SEO, because it's like you send it to technically a third party. So I was just wanted to confirm, isn't it better to just have that same setup in your own website? And
Exactly. My preference is to put the link tree on your website. So, like for instance, for my clients, I'll have a TikTok page that is not being crawled by Google. Make sure it's like, it's hidden and not followed, but TikTok, Twitter, whatever you're doing, YouTube, have a link tree. But you still want to have the link tree there, because otherwise people are just sending people to their homepage, and that's
yeah,
very
yeah,
generic and it's not going to do you any good.
yeah. Okay. So when you're saying link tree, it's like
Personal
link
link
tree.
tree.
kind, like, or type or design as a link tree, but it's really just a page on your site for the
Yeah, but
purposes of that.
if you're not going to do it on your website, it's not, I'd still rather you have a true
I
link
see what you
tree,
mean.
because you will get some confusing data from, you'll be getting a lot of referrals from Linktree and you won't know where they originated from. So
Exactly.
that's what we want
Okay.
for.
Thanks for confirming.
That's helpful. All right, I see Susan's hand.
Yes, Ryan, thank you. I'm curious if you have a process that you follow for kind of a strategic review. I do strategic marketing plans for clients, and this is an area that I want to go deeper in. And I'm curious about how you kind of do an audit and then make recommendations and how that might differ by industry or type of business, et cetera.
So I'm very focused on keyword-oriented SEO, marketing, and answer engine stuff. So I always kind of start with the keyword report. Really, really try to drill down on what are our pillars that the company is trying to address, and then make sure our campaigns are attached to those. Because once you know the keywords that resonate, it doesn't really matter whether you're doing pay-per-click or social media or it's article content or video content, whatever it is, those topics, those pain points are still going to resonate with the same customers no matter what platform. Their mindset doesn't change just because they move from TikTok to YouTube to reading a blog post. They're still going to resonate with the same things. They're still going to be looking for the same things and go, oh, that's me. So for that reason, we'll start with those make sure that the company has those pillar concepts in place and understands where truly what their top keywords are. And then we can start looking at data based on that. So we can go into how much traffic are we getting to the website from your current analytics for those topics? What needs to change on that? And then what are you not measuring properly? So it's usually a lot of audits to start with that we, can figure out where are you dropping the ball? Where can we do better? And then
Mhm.
what do we need to do to augment the content to make it?
All right. Do you include competitive
Yep.
placement?
Yeah, I mean, and I lean heavy into that personally because, for instance, if you've got something that, hey, this should be a pillar of ours, and we're just not even showing up on the first page of that, we will look and analyze the top five, especially the contents that's actually ranking, and look for those weaknesses, and then
Hmm.
turn that into a strategy to create new
And then
content.
and then you use that to lean into AI oriented because people are using.
Answer oriented, yeah. Usually that's where other competitors are dropping the ball. They like to say what they do, but not what they fix. So if you can turn it into short question answers that hit those pain points, and what Cordelia was talking about earlier is one of the greatest ways to do it. Just get somebody on StreamYard talking, and have those questions in place, and ask the owners of the companies and the primaries, like, how do you solve these problems, and just capture that in video and text format, and that gives you a lot of fodder for doing these article pages, these short little video vignettes that you can use in social media or YouTube Shorts or whatever. Yeah, that's the process.
That's
That's
great. Thank
great.
you,
Thank
Ryan.
you.
That's so helpful. So SEO and AEO and all that is so important right now. So we appreciate you guys bringing those tips. All right, I'm going to wrap us up with one tip. We've got 5 minutes left. And I'm going to throw something out here. And this is a little in media res. I'm still learning about this and formulating my thoughts about this, but something kind of stopped me in my tracks and made me just take a step back. So I wanted to present that today. So my name is Stephanie Richards, and my company is SowGrow Public Relations, and we focus on PR from the business to business side for business to business companies. So we're thinking a lot about AI search, and we're thinking a lot about how companies can show up in the AI searches. And there's a lot of focus right now on showing up in the citations. And there are platforms that are trying to measure that, and it's becoming more formalized, but it's still something that's new in the sense that we're still getting used to it. We're still trying to track metrics. And just doing some research and thinking about how AI engines work, if we only focus on showing up in the citations, there's a deeper level that we're missing. And so this is where my brain is turning and trying to figure out, like, what does this mean for marketing? What does this mean for PR? But taking a step back and not just worrying about showing up in individual citations, but really trying to figure out how to influence the narrative overall, whether your company is listed or not. And that is a big shift And it's a bigger goal. It's a bigger goal to really think about this is where thought leadership really becomes more than just pretty content on your website. This is where thought leadership actually moves an industry or actually changes an industry. And that is much harder to do than showing up in, an AI citation here or there. But, it's different than Google, where with the Google searches, you want to show up and you want to rank, and it's about becoming number one, right? It's about you have these right keywords and you show up on this page at this level, and that's a win. Now it's really the win is really becoming the default source for an AI engine. If you can become the expert and the source that the AI engines are pulling from, whether your company is 100% given credit for that or not, that's a longer win and a longer game, but more payoff than just maybe showing up in individual citations for certain things. So, it's not just like, are we listed, but it's, are we shaping the answer? And the honest truth is that is harder to measure, especially if it's not a specific citation, right? But, sometimes you have to think about, you have to like monitor some of the downstream signals. So, are prospects using the language in your conversations? Are prospects talking about the things that you're putting out there, and showing up not just at the end of the funnel. You don't want to just show up with like best PR firms in Atlanta, right? You want to show up on AI engines where confusion is happening, where people are asking questions. So we're in a lot of these SEO traditional mindsets of, we want to rank for like best PR firm in Atlanta or something like that. But that's maybe showing up maybe you'll show up as a citation and something like that at some point. But a deeper, more strategic way to think about showing up in AI searches is getting to the point of confusion and the pain points and when people are asking questions. So, are they typing in something to solve a problem? That's where you want to show up, and that's where you want to start making sure that you are shaping the narrative. You're framing those problems, you're framing those solutions, and not just showing up in AI citations, maybe at the bottom of the funnel. So I'm thinking about this. Would love to hear y'all's thoughts on this, because I feel like this is a huge shift in terms of, how we're showing up in AI search. And we've got 1 minute for questions before we wrap up today. I'll get you guys out of here at 11. April?
Well, I was just gonna just mention kind of like tangentially, it's like I'm really curious, like once OpenAI opens a little bit more like the ad marketplace, what it's like gonna look like, because I wonder if it would allow us to have a little bit more control of that, like, SEO, because then like we can just enter data via like the whole AI subset. So very curious about that. I mean, there's rumors coming next year. So we'll see. I don't know.
So April, I'm going to task you to monitor that for us and report back to us so that we can keep on track with that. So, all right, guys, I would love to continue this discussion, but I always promise to get you guys out at 11 because I know a lot of us have calls that start. So thank you guys for coming today. I so appreciate it. And come on January 20th, go up and sign up now. And if you want to present next time, submit your tip. And I will see you guys in January. Thanks everybody for coming. Thank you for listening to the SowGrow Marketing Council podcast. Want to be part of our next meeting? Visit SowGrowPR.com. That's SowGrowPR.com and click on the Marketing Council tab to sign up for our next event. Until next time, keep growing.